Good morning, everyone.
Hi everyone, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, so one of the key things that we wanted to share today was to essentially share the importance of doing implementing a secure digital transformation for customers. So when we look at the reason why, the key info is essentially as we move on, we advance with technology. But with technology itself, we also have all the underlying threats, right? So from a threat perspective, we start to see a lot of different targeted attacks, new sophisticated attacks, and at the same time, we also see a growing number of ransomware. So I think all the speakers before us have actually shared that across the board. But on top of that, we also see more and more governments imposing governance across and applying fines in the event that you're not ready when all of these attacks essentially happen in your environment. So the key thing is essentially to look at it from the 5 different layers, right? You got financial loss, data theft, reduced productivity, damage in reputation, and at the same time, regulating the requirements from a legal standpoint as well. But on the cyber side, I'll let Agatha actually share.
Yeah, so we definitely see a lot of cybersecurity challenges today. So we understand the need for, moving into the digital transformation. But we're also seeing challenges being faced by our security teams. The first of which is attack sophistication. I think a lot of the speakers also shared that attackers today, the adversaries, they're highly sophisticated, highly motivated, they're very trained, and they're very good at what they do, which is to compromise and breach organizations. So it kind of feels like the security analysts or the security teams are like underdogs because they're up against like a beast. And it kind of feels like we are, Rocky Balboa, the first Rocky movie where he was, just plucked out of random city to go against Apollo Creed, who's a highly trained, very good boxer. And we feel like, we're Rocky Balboa. And that's just the reality today. We're really, behind the innovation of the threat actors. And aside from that, we're also seeing a lot of challenges when it comes to hiring security professionals. But in regards to digital transformation, we're also seeing a knee-jerk reaction from organizations where they have to buy point product solutions or siloed solutions in order to address the ever-expanding attack surface. And that essentially leads us to a lot more challenges when it comes to securing our infrastructure.
One of the key things when we're moving away, we are essentially moving away from silo solutions, best of breed, and we are looking at it from a consolidated effort. The whole goal is essentially to apply an edge infrastructure. So from an organization standpoint, you're essentially extending that perimeter of trust. So the whole goal is to essentially provide an edge infrastructure and secure access regardless of its destination, be whether it's the web, managed SaaS, unmanaged services, internal applications, regardless of where your endpoints are located or the different state of the device as well. So irregardless of whether the user is using a BYOD device, a managed device, the challenge is at its core, you essentially have to apply a very contextual data engine to understand the activity of the user and what is he trying to achieve at his end destination. At the same time, you also need to apply a more centralized visibility approach so that way you can essentially see everything. And from a central point of contact, you can essentially enforce a policy across your endpoint footprint. So that is why everybody is essentially talking about SASE, SSE, and I think you'll hear more later on from other vendors as well, why Zero Trust is essentially growing in the conversation sphere as well. But I would like to also highlight one more thing. So we are also moving away from traditional data protection. So the whole goal is essentially to apply a modern shift to it. So not only do you want to apply data protection and do a discovery, validation, and then essentially also apply the incident response, you want it to become contextual. So apply Zero Trust, network access, and at the same time, continuously adapt with the change. Because as we all can see, right, we have seen users, endpoints, we have seen the way that we've operated change over the past 3 years. Everybody is now working in in a way, in a sense, hybrid approach, but you also still need to ensure that wherever your users are, regardless of whatever they're accessing, you still want to ensure that you can do a continuous assessment and at the same time apply adaptive policies across the board. So with that said, one other key thing is also when you're applying all of these changes, let me just adjust, move around, is to essentially look at it from a threat scale as well. And that's where Agatha will take over. Yes.
So we were actually talking about it earlier. You've seen a lot of statistics already today, and it's just lunchtime. But I don't want you to, to feel like you've been shown a lot of numbers. But if there's one number I want you to remember is the e-crime breakout time. And that's 79 minutes. This is not how quickly you detect a threat. This is actually in relation to a threat actor. Once they compromise one of your machines, the fastest we've seen is it only takes them 79 minutes to move from that machine to your servers. And that's a highly critical metric because if you are moving, slower than 79 minutes, it means that even if you detect the threat quickly, you detect it on the first minute it shows up, but it takes you 2 hours, 3 hours, or 5 days to respond to it, then we are essentially defeated by Apollo Creed. So that's just the reality today. That's why in CrowdStrike and with Netskope, we believe that every second counts and adversaries are just getting faster and faster. And this is also why, we emphasize the need for a unified platform, but not just, blindly integrating everything, consolidating everything, and correlating everything. It's one thing to have visibility, but what do you do with the data? So it's important to consolidate wherever it is, accessible, or it's important to consolidate where it is applicable. Like, for example, the endpoint and the network is a natural integration, and we like to work with partners and vendors such as Netskope who purposely integrate with CrowdStrike in a unified platform to deliver more than endpoint, more than XDR capabilities, and even response. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg. So if you're interested to know more about our partnership, we actually have a booth as well. So we'd love to talk to you as well.
Yeah. So with regards to our integration, one of the key things that we essentially provide, and as a whole, an EDR vendor or an SSE player essentially provide, is to secure both footprints, right? To understand where your assets are residing, and then securing the users based off its device, access to those applications itself. So the whole goal is to essentially provide a comprehensive visibility from an endpoint to a cloud destination, and also to secure and ensure you're preventing unauthorized activities through the best practice of zero trust, and at the same time improve the posture of the endpoint. So this essentially, it's a conversation on a larger scale, is because all the vendors are essentially also sharing the risk intelligence. So what I've discovered, I automate it and I share it to CrowdStrike. What they discover, they automate it and share it to Netskope. Yep. So the whole goal is to essentially automate the entire ecosystem. So to simplify it, so one of the whole goal is, regardless of the different access, the destination, with the different vendors in the whole flow, what we can do is we can continuously validate identity with an IDP provider, at the same time securing access with a cloud security vendor like Netskope. And then for email chain, we can look at different kind of vendors, example, I think Proofpoint, Mimecast. And then at the endpoint, at the end state, that's where CrowdStrike will essentially come in and automate the whole process. So less human intervention where possible. You only want them to come in and view when there's actual incident that occur.
So consolidate where it is, it's ideal, and also work with partners who purposely integrate their solutions with a common security outcome, not just blindly consolidating everywhere or even just, purchasing a fixed solution. So that's the importance of automating the security ecosystem. And just to share, we do have a wrap-up slide to give you, the generic steps. I'm sure all of you know this already. 5 steps to be resilient. Of course, this is a no-brainer. You have to gain visibility in your security gaps. Make sure that you're using best-in-class technologies, not a 3 or 5-in-1 solution. consolidate and integrate with other vendors, promote a cybersecurity culture, and of course, know your adversary and practice makes perfect. Yeah.
All right, so that's all from us. Thank you, everyone.
Another big round of applause for Ms. Agatha Alarilla of CrowdStrike and Mr. Litz Khan of Netskope right there. Thank you very much for that insightful presentation where they highlighted how organizations are essentially, playing catch up to cyber attackers. And of course, the importance of applying modern protection strategies as attackers become much, much faster, taking just 79 minutes to compromise your entire system. So once again, thank you to Litz Khan and Agatha Alarilla right there for that very comprehensive presentation right there.